Good evening. Hello. I'm going to put my hallelujah lightning on. Hallelujah, light. Let there be light. Well, as you know, we are coming live from my dining room table at Century Village in Boca Raton, 1062 Exeter D, like David. And I have to be exceptionally good tonight because there is a critic in the house sitting on my couch. She's come here to observe. And I said, Lucy, do you want to say hello? She said, no. Okay, fine, just be my critic. Lucy has been my friend for 13 years. We've been through everything together, literally. And she's the opposite of me, mellow, lay back, doesn't like anything that's chaotic. And me, I'm a tornado most of the time, breeding in the warm water, the hurricane breeding in the warm waters. So I think, as I said yesterday, it's important to have friends who are different. Everybody should have friends that don't look like them, sound like them, or act like them. And you don't want people that are just going to yes you all the time because you'll never grow. I forgot to put a description on yesterday's reading. I found out about 2 hours ago that I didn't do it. And I must stay focused because I didn't do it, but tonight I did. Then I went back, of course, and I edited it, and it's down there now, so we're good. And I know sometimes the descriptions appeal to more people than others because you can relate more, which is why some of my readings will get more attention than others, not because they're any less important to me, but they might pertain more to you. And if anything, that's what I've always felt my writing has been about, is helping others as well as help myself. And Lord knows my writing, as I keep saying, has helped me tremendously all the years, and I encourage you. The other reason some of the chapters are easier for me also to relate to in general is because we're going to go into 18 tonight, chapter 18, taking care of myself. And I remember the day Jeffrey was in the hospital. Jeffrey's in the hospital, and it was about a week into his illness when everybody felt that he was going to survive. But it was horrible. I mean, I was a mess, and I was running back and forth trying to get him to eat and taking care of his folks and worried out of it, and then sleeping in the room half the time and going back and forth to the hospital. We all know how that can be. And so I went in his room one day, and he just looked at me, and he said, Susan, the way you look, he said, I want you to come in the room and look like the woman I married and the person I know. I'm the one who's sick. And that was his philosophy. He was sick, and he did not want me looking like I was. And to this day, no matter how I feel or no matter how you feel, you really have to try to keep it together because you don't really know whose life you're affecting or changing, but also for yourself. You have to move around, and you have to get yourself out of yourself, or you will go really nuts. So that's the end of it. I put my description on for tonight, chapter 18, and this is taking care of myself, and it's really powerful. And I'm going to take my time, and we only went into a little bit of it, so I'm going to start basically from the beginning. As I said, I always know when God wants me to start, and I know when he wants me to stop. So I take these few minutes always to introduce you to something, or take a few minutes to, unplug myself, and then we'll get into it. So this is chapter 18. A big part of this chapter, hi Teresa, a big part of this chapter is asking you questions I've asked myself. So it's a very big, you could almost get out a piece of paper if you knew how to write, or get out your phone or your iPad, or listen to this a few times, because this is probably the most questions about caregiving and taking care of yourself in any of the chapters that I have spoken about. So I think this one is the most important for you. Though I probably said they were all important, I really believe this one is something that you will go through. And I'm serious, whether it's a professional job as a caregiver or whether it's personal. I don't draw the line. It's a different protocol, and you have to have a certain attitude. So answer questions as I go through and see if you are who you are. So chapter 18 says, taking care of myself. And I told you that's what Jeff said. I'm the one who's sick. He said, stop looking like you are. quote, you must take care before you can give care, end quote. I said, Dear Jeff, and this is a little from yesterday, what does the word, quote, caregiving mean to you? The dictionary, of course, the dictionary says it means watchful, attentive, looked after, or held dear. For me, caregiving is every one of those things and more. Can you give care for an hour or a day? Can it be given weekly, monthly, or is it forever? Quote, caregiving is whatever you want for as long as you want, end quote. Do you think giving care is a choice or should it be expected? Yeah, that's a big one. Do you think giving care is a choice or should it be expected? Caregiving is a choice and should be given solely from your heart. I said, whether it's professional or personal, think about it. Is caregiving a simple task or a difficult chore? Does caregiving have to be planned or can it be done spontaneously? Quote, caregiving is whatever you want, again, for as long as you want, end quote. We all, people who have jobs in that field, it is difficult to remove yourself from your personal world into your professional world. I understand that. But there is a time when you have to, because then you're not really giving care. Caregiving is whatever you want for as long as you want, end quote. Do you give care to one person or to many? Is it the act of caregiving more for the individual receiving care or for the one giving it? These are questions. This whole thick program is almost full of all questions. Do you give care to one person or to many? Is the act of caregiving more for the individual receiving care or for the one giving it? Caregiving should feel right for everyone involved. Are you giving care to someone now? Are you cherishing every moment, no matter how difficult they may be? Whether giving care through the good times or the bad, never stop doing it. Nothing is more rewarding, personally satisfying, or more greatly appreciated, especially when caregiving comes from your heart. There's a difference. And I don't care whether it's personal or professional. When it comes from your heart, people know. They feel you. That's what I want you to do. I want you to feel me. All right, so now we're going to start on Thursday. While you are giving your care to someone else, who is taking care of you? During the summer of '92, as you were recovering, I realized giving care and taking care were two very different things. If I was going to be an effective caregiver, I needed to stay healthy and strong. How could I be good for you if I wasn't being good to myself? But trying to meet my own needs during this time was much more difficult and challenging than I ever thought possible. Taking care of myself now required not only willingness on my part, but an incredible amount of patience. At times it seemed an impossible task because your illness was both serious and long-term. I did not know how I would be able to meet my own needs during this time. Throughout our 25 years, I tried many different things in an attempt to meet my own needs. When we were first married, and you're going to learn now, in between some of this, you'll learn much more about my relationship and my life with Jeff. Through our 25 years, I tried many different things in an attempt to meet my own needs. When we were first married and lived in Albany, New York, you were studying for your master's degree, and I worked full-time as a dental hygienist. As a student's wife, I felt my responsibility to type your 2-year master's degree program, including your thesis, and I typed everything and did all the homework. I always say, Jeffrey was the therapist. He was great with people. It was not my strong suit. He was great with people, but he didn't like school. But for me to get him through school, he showed up in classes with the work, but I did an awful lot of homework. Proud of it, too. So, there we go, as a student's wife, and I never liked it at all, I felt it was my responsibility to type your 2-year master's degree program, including your thesis. It was an amazing undertaking, and quite an accomplishment. When I wasn't doing your homework, all I wanted to do was cook. You couldn't get me out of the kitchen. I started collecting a library of cookbooks, and every day I surprised you with a new recipe. Cook was something we did together, and our meals were gastronomical feasts. Cooking became my passion, and in 1990 I wrote a cookbook, Safe Sex Never Tasted So Good, and started my publishing company, Boner Publications. That should make some of you smile and look it up. These 2 years were difficult physically and emotionally, but they were exciting and rewarding. The harder we worked toward our goals, oh, the greater our satisfaction was when we achieved them. Think about that. The goals you set for yourself may be so hard to go through and to get to, but when you've accomplished them, you just feel so much better. Set goals. I always said short-term goals, long-term plans, and short-term goals. That was a chapter. Long-term plans, short-term goals. During our 3 years in Gainesville, you were working on your doctoral degree. When we first moved there, I wanted to try something challenging. I went out and bought a sewing machine. You came home from school and said, quote, "Why did you buy a sewing machine when you don't sew?" End quote. I couldn't sew when I bought it, but 1 week later, the bedrooms had curtains and the tables had cloths. I started sewing 24 hours a day and made clothes for friends. I mean, that's who I am. When I get into something, it's intense. If I walk away from it, I never do it again. I do not sew, not even a hem. But he came home from school when he was going for his doctorate in Gainesville, 3 years. So he came home from school and he said, quote, "Why did you buy a sewing machine when you don't sew?" End quote. I couldn't sew when I bought it, but 1 week later the bedrooms had curtains and the tables had cloths. I started sewing 24 hours a day and made clothes for friends. Between my cooking and sewing classes, homemaking, and helping you through your degree, I grew individually and as your wife. I took care of myself while giving care to you and our home. By becoming self-sufficient, I established my own identity. I learned how to meet many of my own needs because I wanted to. That's just so important. If there's a word that many people will say about somebody is they're needy. We're all needy at times, but there's that point in your life when you have to, put on your big girl shoes and your big boy pants, and you have to stop being needy. Especially when, let's say, you're on your own. I mean, I've got no kids, no husband, no parents, no family. I'm on my own. By the grace of God taking care of me and good friends and great insurance. I mean, in general, you have to. You have to learn to be self-sufficient. Because if you're too old and taking care of somebody and then something happens to that person, you might be too old to be able to take care of yourself. I was only 48 when Jeff passed. So for me, it was a blessing in that respect, is that he didn't leave me a multimillionaire, and I'm pissed because he didn't take out more life insurance when I wanted him to, but he would have come back positive. But in general, thank God, I've been good managing money, managing time, and I have been careful. But I've had to take care of myself because I knew, my life was going to depend on me at that point. And it's very hard, but you learn to do it when you have to. It's amazing what you learn to do when you have to. We're much tougher than we think we are. We just don't give ourselves enough credit. In Houston, we built our first home. We graduated and got his doctorate in Gainesville and moved to Houston. Got his practice established and got a directorship as a residential treatment center as a psychologist. Excellent job. We built our first home. I became fascinated with roses and wanted to design and landscape the yard. Roses grew all year long, and it was an exciting challenge building a rose garden. One day you came home from work and the backyard was landscaped with 75 different varieties of roses. There wasn't one bush that was the same. I went to the Horticultural Society and the Botanical Society, and I just had them load up. I mean, it started off, there was just a few, and then there were a lot. And then all of a sudden there were 75 magnificent rose bushes. Neighbors had roses. We had roses in the house and different varieties. And I mean, it was so much fun. They were a lot of work, but they are magnificent. So it said roses grew all year long, and it was an exciting challenge building a rose garden. One day you came home from work and the backyard was landscaped with 75 different varieties of roses. Because a little obsessive and intense with things, there wasn't one bush that was the same. Our garden was magnificent, and we had fresh roses every day at the kitchen table. We traveled extensively and entertained friends and colleagues. I was involved with your counseling practice and business. I had several opportunities to cook professionally, but I declined the offers because I wanted to take piano lessons. Oh, this is wonderful. I forgot about this. Oh, where is it? And I did still cook for people, but it got to be too much work because they liked the cheesecakes and everything I was making. And when money started exchanging hands and they wanted things at a certain time, and I said, I can't do this. So I had several opportunities to cook professionally, but I declined the offers because I wanted to take piano lessons. I hired a tutor for twice-a-week lessons, practiced 3 to 4 hours a day, and gave recitals during our dinner parties. For weeks, you went off to work hearing the same song, but you always said you liked it. And I wasn't by ear. I had to read sheet music, but I did play as a child for about 10 years, and then I played here for about another 10, and I was classically trained as a child. I just didn't like having to take the lessons every week, but I had a beautiful piano, and I really loved it. So for 3 to 4 hours a day, I gave recitals during our dinner parties. For weeks, you went off to work hearing the same song, but you always said you liked it. And the dog would be under the thing howling. We had a mini schnauzer named Spearmints, and he'd sit under the piano, and he would just howl as I would play. Oh, I mean, he was so cute. He loved it. For weeks, you went off to work hearing the same, but you liked them. We joined a synagogue and became active in our congregation and the community. Though I matured physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in Houston, my life always revolved around you, your career, and being your wife. To this day, the happiest I was when I was in our home with him, cooking, fighting, laughing, crying. Wouldn't have changed a thing. When we moved, we're good. If I'm laughing, it's because I haven't read this but one time. So for me, and when I read it, it was more professionally to read it instead of stopping, because it had to be really strict and serious, except that never worked out either, so I might as well do it this way. It's having much more fun. When we moved to Boca Raton in 1985, oh, here we go, I decided to join a gym. I knew nothing about bodybuilding, but that's what I wanted to do. I was 39 years old, knew nothing about bodybuilding, but when I did judo when I was a teenager, I was really good at that, and I loved sports. But I knew nothing about bodybuilding, but that's what I wanted to do. I hired a former Mr. America as my instructor and began weight training 3 hours a day, 7 days a week. The more I exercised, the more empowered I became. It was challenging, rewarding, and exceeded my expectations. Bodybuilding gave me a greater confidence in myself and helped me respect people more. In 1990, I wrote and published my cookbook, quote, Safe Sex Never Tasted So Good, unquote. No, I don't sell them anymore. No, I am not that woman, though she comes out once in a while just to say hello like this. And was autographing books at local bookstores. I joined the Chamber of Commerce, was a guest speaker at the community functions, and attended charity events. Susan Lee Mintz had become her own person. I was 40 years old. I had a beautiful home, a successful husband, and a future that was exciting and fun. But no one knew the secret I had been keeping for years. In 1981, I chose celibacy rather than risking my health. when I feared you might become HIV positive. Abstinence not only saved my life, it made me stronger. We still continue to share a loving and intimate non-sexual relationship, and our friendship continued to grow. My life was balanced, and I was totally fulfilled. I was at that time. I'm going to just read one more paragraph. I was always attracted to your independence. This is a very serious chapter. You can tell this is an extremely rewarding chapter, but I think for you, you'll learn so much more about my passion, even whether it was writing, whatever I did. I had such passion and intensity, and for many people, that was a part they didn't like about me. I was so intense about everything. But if I took something on, I gave it. I did it. I didn't half-ass or half-wash anything. I either threw myself in and then walked away, or I didn't try it at all. And there's so much more that I did. I was always attracted to your independence, strength, and confidence. Over the years, I was able to pursue my interests because you weren't demanding or, here's that word, needy, end quote, quote, end quote, needy. I had the time to meet my own needs. Now I am frightened, because here we go. This is 19, here we are. Now I am frightened and confused, and the only thing that matters is your survival. See how we flipped from everything was good in 1990? That journey changed in 1992. It flipped me on a dime. I was the happiest 2 years from 1990 to 92 when I was that cookbook lady of Boca, everywhere and had everything. 92, my life flipped and I had to adjust. Over the years, I was able to pursue my interests because you weren't demanding or, quote, needy, end quote. I had the time to meet my needs. Now I am frightened and confused, and the only thing that matters is your survival. I don't have the time or the energy to think about myself. I am overwhelmed with matters that have to be taken care of immediately. I have to tell your parents, your business colleagues when he was diagnosed and put in the hospital. I have to tell your parents, that was a chapter, your business colleagues and friends. I rush home, grab a quick bite, shower, and hurry back to the hospital. One night, while I was sitting holding your hand, a terrifying feeling gripped my body. I was speechless and couldn't move. I felt like I was watching someone else go through this ordeal. Instinctively, I grabbed a piece of paper and pencil and started to write. Blinded by my tears, I could barely see the paper as I scribbled my thoughts down. My mind was reeling with facts and figures, names and faces. My hands fought desperately to keep up with the endless stream of emotions and frantic feelings pouring out of me. That's where I'm going to stop now, because this will tell you more about a little of everything. As I said, I think this chapter is amazingly empowering if you go through life trying to meet your own needs, even though you might be taking care of someone else. Or parents. I mean, what's more challenging than having two aging parents going through the stuff they're going through? And then you might have a sick husband or a sick child, or you lose your job, and Lord knows the world we're living in, financial issues. And I mean, if you turn on the news, you can see why people are a little stressed. But you still have to look in the mirror at yourself and say, what good am I to you if I'm not good to me? It's not selfish. And yet it's okay to be a little selfish because you're talking about your life. Your life is the choices that you make. I'll tell you what, again, I have no regrets. I thank God for everything. And I know that there's more, a lot more, that I'm going to do in my life pertaining to my story, because that's all I'm focused on now. The intensity and the passion is about committed to love. I think I told you yesterday that the website has all my readings. Everything we've done since April 3rd are all on SusanMintz.com under the readings, not readings, under the books icon, the books page, and at the bottom you'll see Susan Reads Committed to Love, as well as the short story version and interviews, and on the media page too. It's a very well done website, and it's just information and getting you to know me and my life. The other thing is, yes, my YouTube channel is up. I laugh because I can't get on it half the time, but it keeps asking me passwords, and I'm so grateful that I have friends who have my passwords. But I'm on, and I know how to do history in my videos, so they're on my YouTube channel, which also has information about HIV, interviews, the monoclonal antibody IVs, the treatment I went through and everything. So it's my information is out there, and it's real, and it's not watered down, and it's not any one thing. It's a little of everything. But that's, who you are. You're all the roses in your garden, and they're all beautiful. Yellow, purple, red, multicolored. Roses are beautiful. They just require a lot of care. But so do people. And so do you. So I am going to hit finish, as I always do. And you know what I'm going to say. Shalom. Hello. Shalom, goodbye. And shalom, peace. Have a little peace tonight in a world that's anything but. And be kind. We could use some kindness. Be a little more patient. That's my thing. And call someone. Tell them you love them. Well, you can. God bless all of you, and shalom. I thank you. And my critic sitting over here getting wasted. She's sitting here drinking while I'm pouring my guts out. She has me opening up her wine so that she can sit in the chair and not only listen to this live, but you're going to have to listen to it again tonight when I listen to it. Thank you, Lucy.
You're welcome.
And now, for the first time in 6 weeks, I'm going to have pizza. How's that? I am so excited. For me to have a piece of pizza, it couldn't be better than a buffet at the Golden Corral. A piece of pizza. God bless all of you. I snort when I laugh. And thank you all so much. I hope you get something out of my reads, and that you also laugh at yourself a little more too. Cut yourself some slack. Bye. Shalom.